Welcome to another segment of provocative conversations destined to provoke further thought and spark greater questions regarding God, church, and the religious establishments of both the past and the present. I am the proud heretic, Mr. Provocateur himself. Hello. Picking up from where we stopped off in the type of season this is, I want to pick up on March 29th on the type season this is. This is a season of many types, and I want to give you insight into the type season this is so that you won't be mistaken, or you won't approach this season as though it is as any other type season. This is not a season like any other season that you've ever experienced. And there's so much to glean from this season, and I want to give you all that God has spoken to me regarding this season. So, on March 29th, 2020, God said to me, this is not a period of activity. In other words, this is a season, the season that we're in is not a season to be filled with activity, not of personal activity. This is a season of activity that will be going on that will involve people, a season of activism, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But this is not a period. This is not a season of activity. This is not an active period per se, for us to be active and going about and partying and going to parties and going out to clubs and going out to bars and just doing our thing and trying to make a church service out of everything, just whatever. That is not what type period we're in. God said this period is not to be active. This period is not to be filled with activity. Yet we see people fighting to go back to their normal activities. We see people fighting, wanting to get back to their ball games and wanting to get back to their different high school proms and whatever else they have, and their college parties and all. People want to get back to their normal activities. And God said, this is not a period to be filled with activity. God was giving us a break in time, a break in history, so that we could prepare ourselves for what is coming, so that we could prepare our bodies, so that we could prepare our minds, prepare our hearts, to prepare our spiritual life, to prepare our family members, to prepare our homes, to prepare our possessions, to sit back and to observe the times that we're living in. But instead, we want to fill it with activity. And this is not a season of activity. We should not be filling this season up with activity, wanting to have picnics, parties, and weddings. And no, this is not that type season. God said, stay within your vicinity. Stay within the vicinity of where you live. Stay local. He said, this is not a time to be visiting and mingling. He said, this is not a season of mingling, but rather this is a season, a period to be alone. This is the period for you and yours to be alone together, to come into a conscious awareness of each other, of yourself, and most definitely of God, in where you sit with God, or should I say, of where God sits with and in you. But instead, we're wanting to do other things. God said this is a period of listening. This is a period where you are to listen. Maybe that's why, again, the mask is on our mouths. This is a period for us to be listening. This is a period of hearing. If we would shut our mouths, we would hear. If we would wear our mask, we could hear. This is a period of learning. This is a period of growth. This is a period of coming to know, a period of coming to understand. This is a period of coming to see more keenly, more precisely, more sharply, more clearly. You are in a season to hear. You are in a season to see. You are in a season of seeing. You're in a season of unveiling. God is unveiling so much in this season if we would just stop, look, and listen. God is doing it, a season of unveiling. You are in a season where things are being unveiled. You are in a season where things are being revealed. God is revealing things to us. We're telling people, shut up and dribble. We're telling people, shut up and play ball. Shut up and perform for us. Shut up and let us do what we want to do. Shut up and give us our rights back. Shut up and let us open our churches up. When God is trying to show you something, he's saying, shut up and listen. This is a period where you ought to shut up and listen. This is a period where you ought to learn and to grow, where you ought to come to know and to understand, to see more clearly, probably more cleanly as well. But we're so stuck in wanting everything how we want it. When you don't understand the type season God has us in, you disrespect the season that you're in. You are in a season to hear, a season to see, a season of seeing, a season of unveiling, a season where things are being unveiled, where things are being revealed. God said, he said, I am revealing in this season. I am revealing what has been unknown for centuries in this season. I am revealing the secrets of centuries. I am revealing secrets that have been hidden for centuries. This is a time for revealing. This is a time for unfolding. This is a time to unfold. Things are being unfolded in this season. This is a season of unfolding. This whole season will be a period of unfolding. We need to allow God to unfold the freshness of what is occurring in this season. This is a period of humility. This is a period where humility will become central. Humility. This is a period of humility, people. God is humbling us. This is a period where humility will become central. This is a period where humility will be the central focus. This is a period where humility will become the central focal point. This is a period where humility will become the order of the day. God is getting us to the point where humility becomes the order of the day. It becomes so the norm. It becomes what we do, who we actually are. We are such a proud nation. We are such a proud people throughout the world, especially here within the United States, especially within the church, especially within the political system, especially within the economic system. This is a period, God said, this is a period of quiet humbleness. Quiet humbleness. People don't want to be forced to learn to be quiet, humble. This is a period of quietly humbling yourself. You humbling yourself. This is a period where everyone will be required to humble themselves. Everyone will be required to humble themselves during this season. This season will bring humility to its forefront. But yet we're not allowing humility to have its place because we're so prideful. I don't wear a mask. It takes away from who I am. I don't wear a mask. I'm free. And whom the Lord has set free, he's free indeed. Yep, but then you still believe the verse that says, slaves, obey your master and don't seek to be free. That is twisted, my brother. This season will bring humility to its forefront. What I say to you is this: even though this is a humbling season and people are bucking and fighting and going stupid, especially the church, and the world is following us, and especially the United States and the world is following us, understand this here, because this is a season that will bring humility. We will be brought to humility. We will be brought to humility. Again, if you hear noise in my background, I live by an Air Force base, and jets are just flying over my head left and right. It's like when I took a break earlier today from recording, they took a break. And then when I come back to start recording again, now I don't know, the signal went off again, letting them know he's recording again. Okay, let's hit the air again. Let's get up in the air and start doing maneuvers. But anyway, this season will bring humility to its forefront. Still in March 29th, this is what God said. This is a season for us to align ourselves. God said, align yourself with this season. Do not fight against this season, but rather align yourself with this season. Stop fighting against the rules and regulations of the CDC. Stop fighting against the World Health Organization. Stop fighting against the obvious. Stop fighting against the physicians that are laying out things. Go with the season. This is a period of alignment. This is a period for us to align ourselves back up or align ourselves with what we've never been aligned with before. Not to fight against what God is aligning us with or to, and what he's using to align us with. This is a period where things will align themselves. This is a period where people will begin to align themselves. This is a season of people aligning themselves with me, with God. This is people's opportunity. This is a season of opportunity for people to align themselves with God. This is a time of personal alignment. A period of you aligning yourself. Are you doing that? Are you taking the time that you've never taken throughout your life to align yourself with God in every sense of the way, with all of your fiber and being? This is a period for you to align yourself with your family. This is your period for you to align yourself with the members of your household, to come into alignment with each other. God says, same March 29th, he said to me, this season will be a season of destruction. This is a season of destruction. Destruction comes in many forms. Remember, there's a verse in the Bible, Hosea. It says, for my people are destroyed. This is a season of destruction. This is a season where destruction will be all around you. God told me destruction will be all around you. He said there will be destruction throughout industries. He said industries will be destroyed in this season. Businesses will be derailed in this season. Now, let me read this one. Businesses will be dismantled in this season. Businesses will be undone in this season. Now, understand this here. Of course, you see this now, but when God was telling me this here, this was not seen. This was not obvious. This was March 29th. This was at the beginning of this thing. New York hadn't had its rampant flow of deaths and destructive forces of the virus yet. So much happened from then to now that now you hear this and you say, oh, well, yeah. But no, when God gave me this, that was not so. God said this is not a period of recovery. We're not in a period of recovery. Remember, there's a time and season for everything. This is not the period of recovery within this season. He said most businesses will not return. Most businesses will not recover from this season. I know that we keep hearing the president say one thing, and I know that we keep hearing politicians say another thing, and I know that we keep hearing governors and whoever else say, local politicians say whatever they say in order to whatever, I don't know, whatever it is. But listen, most businesses will not recover from this season, even if you've opened your doors back up. Does not matter. This is not a period of personal greed, God told me. Personal greed will not have place in this period, though people will continue to be greedy during this period. The greed of the people will continue to be on display during this season. He said, but their greed is going to cost them. This is the period where this is the type season where the greed that you have is going to cost you. Those of you who are gouging people for masks and gloves and sanitary items and even food and even the daily necessities, you're just trying to make as much money as you can off of people. You're taking the hard pressed and you're making merchandise out of them. You church folks, you preachers, and you people on the internet and out there in the church houses, you're still being greedy. You still have people paying for your birthdays and your anniversaries and your celebrations and all, and you know what's coming, or you should know what's coming. You're a man or a woman, a man of God, or a woman of God, a woman of God, whatever you are, and you see the people hurting, and then you try to use the verse of the widow woman and her son who were going to eat the little bit they had and then die, and you take that verse and you make that a principle. That's not necessarily a principle. That is not a principle. It's just messy what you're doing and what we're doing. Anyway, the greed of the people will continue to be on display, and it is. Their greed will cost them. If you preachers know that people are hurting during this season, why is it that you're not telling them store up? Because the Bible says the children ought not to store up for the fathers, but the fathers ought to store up for the children. Why are we storing up in your storehouse? You should be storing up in our storehouse. You should be having your storehouse wide open and giving back to us in all the seasons that we gave to you. Now you should be giving back to us in this season, in due season. This is a season that is definitely due to help others. Whatever people will gain in their greed, God said, will be lost due to their greed. For greed will have no place during this season. Greed will have no place during this season. This is not a season to take advantage of anyone. This is not a season to be taking advantage of anyone. This is not a season that anyone wants to be taking advantage of anyone else. Taking advantage of anyone during this season will be costly. People who take advantage of others during this season will suffer great loss. God said to me, the loss will be great. God said, same March 29th, he said, this season is a learning event. This is a season of learning. This entire season is a learning event that is meant to teach. Teaching will be wrought through the life events of this season. God says the life events of this season will be the teachers in this season. These life events are going to be the teachers. We're not even going to need preachers to teach us. We're going to have life, the events in life to teach us. Your Bible isn't even going to teach you. Life is going to teach you. I told you it wasn't all in the Bible. I told you God was bringing us outside of the confinement of the book. Teaching will be wrought through the life events of this season. This is an eye-opening season, God said. Eye-opening. People's eyes will be open during this season. People's eyes will be forced open. People will attempt to hide from what they see in this season, but their attempts will fail. They will attempt to hide from the devastation of this season, but they will not be able to hide from the devastation of this season. This will be a season of devastation. Know that. God told me of historic proportions, but I won't get ahead of myself. This will be a season of truth, a season where truth will come forth. No wonder it will be a season of truth. If this is an eye-opening season, our eyes will be open because of the light of the truth that's going to shine through on everything that's been going on. Now, whether each of us individually entirely will see everything that's going on, I don't know. Maybe it'll be too overwhelming for one particular person to see everything, but everything will be exposed, and I guess we will see what we need to see individually. But I want to see as much as I can see. God help me to see. This will be a season of truth. This will be a season where truth will spring forth from every direction. Truth will begin to spring forth from every sector of society. Truth will begin to spring forth in devastating fashion. You know, truth has a degree of devastation in it. Truth will mess you up. Truth will devastate you. Yes. Have a spouse and find out that spouse was having a relationship with someone else. That would be devastating, but it is the truth. If indeed it is. God help us all, huh? Truth will begin to spring forth in devastating fashion. The truth that will spring forth will be devastating. It will have devastating effects. The truth is going to destroy throughout this season. The truth is going to destroy throughout this season. People will be destroyed because of the truth that will come forth during this season. People will be devastated by the truth that will come forth in this season. People will be forced to admit the devastating truth of this season. Now, I wonder if that's what all that has, not wonder, I know that's apparently what has been happening. We're being devastated by the level of truth that we're coming into. People are being devastated by the level of truth that's being unfolded in their own lives about their own lives. People are being devastated about their dealings. People are being devastated by the fact that, oh man, we have to end these different systems. Why? Because the truth is out now. They're devastated by it. Everything that they have is tied up in it. Their wealth, their pride, their dignity, political affiliation, their power, their authority. It's in that which is being unveiled, where the light of the truth is shining forth and exposing them. They're becoming devastated. That's why people are fighting so hard right now to maintain the status quo of what has always been. People will be forced to admit the devastating truth of this season. People will be forced to see and admit the devastating truth that will come forth in this season. They'll be forced to see and to admit the devastation that will touch every sector of every society during this season. Still on March 29th, he says, every society will receive its share of suffering. The events of this season will bring the mightiest to their knees. The things of this season is going to bring the mightiest to their knees. The events of this season will bring the most powerful to their knees. This season will humble the most influential. This is a season where many in power will lose their positions. This is a season where they will lose their positions of power. Many will be shifted into their positions of power. Many will be positioned into position throughout or through the shift that is occurring right now. God is positioning you to be put into position as others are being shifted out of their positions. This is a season where people will be moved in position into their rightful positions. People have been positioned to move into position. People who have been positioned will now be put into position. No one will be saved through their influence. Now, the type season this is, the last thing he said to me on March 29th, he said, this is not a season of exemption. This is not a season of exemption. This is a season where everyone is subject to the events of this season. This is one of the first things God told me. This is not a season of exemption. The church is saying, oh, we're exempt. We're the body of Christ. We're exempt. I had certain people, certain family members, certain people who just feels that we're exempt from everything. What in the hell is you talking about? And I mean to say just like that, what in the hell is you talking about? And remember, a curse word isn't a curse word because you say that it is. You don't have one list of curses in the Bible, in your book, that would tell you what a curse word is. In fact, they didn't even speak English. You're defining what that is. Yet at the same time, you define what freedom is too. Remember, you say, whom the Lord has set free, he's free indeed. But then you tell the slaves, obey your master and remain a slave. See, you're determining what whatever is as you choose to determine it. And that's not the way that it works. So I say again, what the hell is you talking about saying that the church is exempt? If anybody who needs a shaking up, it is the church. You'll find out what I'm saying, and you'll understand why God is doing what he's doing in this season. I didn't say the devil, why the devil is doing what he's doing in this season. I said, well, God is doing what he's doing in this season. This is not a season of exemption. This is a season where everyone is subject to the events of this season. This is a season where everyone is subject to the events of this season. If everyone is not subject to the events of this season, tell me why bishops have died. Tell me why pastors have died. Tell me why archbishops or those of the Catholic diocese or whatever, why they've died. Tell me why all these people have died. Give me a good reason why. And then let their family members hear you, and their family members will tell you something different. This is a season where everyone is subject to the events of this season. No one is exempt from this season. I'll talk on that bishop stuff a little later when I get over into the church. No one is exempt in this season. Everyone is within reach during this season. Everyone. Stop thinking that you are exempt. I see these people having churches and they're not using masks and they're not using anything. Only those who are to be touched will apparently be touched. But that doesn't mean that we're supposed to just live frivolously and not even use precaution and listen to the authorities. I'm not impressed by you opening up your churches and all. I'm not impressed by you filling your churches up with hungry souls or greedy or foolish souls or ignorant followers. I'm not convinced of that. That doesn't prove your faith. That doesn't prove anything. That just proves how foolish you are. And it shows how rebellious you are as a church. You're full of rebellion. It isn't that only the world was supposed to apply the blood onto the doorpost. And I'm not talking about the blood of Jesus, how you want to say, but I'm just using, even in the book of, everybody applied that blood on the doorpost. How is it? And I'm only saying this, using that as like a sort of like a principle, in the sense that, how do you feel that you're exempt from putting blood on your doorpost? And don't tell me about Jesus. You don't even know if that whole thing is wholly whole. You know, I like the principle of it all and I go with it. But I'm just saying, and don't get messed up because I talked about the Jesus thing. You still don't know. Yeah, and I know what the Bible says. By faith we know, and by seeing we also know some things, and by knowing we also know some things, and by hearing the Spirit of God, the essence of God within us, we know some things as well. So, you know, that's neither here nor there. And I'm not shooting down the Jesus thing because I like the Jesus concept. But if you want me to just buy into all of that the way that I once did, no, I don't buy into that. And yet it does not change my love and my position with God, my love for, nor my position with God, period. And especially not because you feel it does or it doesn't, or however, whatever you want to feel, whatever. But anyway, we are not exempt from what is going on in this period. And for us to be, you know, there's a level of obedience God is trying to establish in us. We're not showing the world any type of obedience toward God and toward the authorities that be, when we buck against the authorities, and then in order that it not be seen or viewed as a bucking, we as the church get the authorities to submit to us in our threats and our begging pleas. And our donations into their political seekings. If you don't do this for us, we won't vote for you. Dumb stuff like that. Now we're manipulating. We're manipulating in order to have our way. Everyone is subject to the events of this season. So don't you think for a minute that the events of this season does not include you or me or whoever else. That is not how this is going. This is a period. God said on March 31st, he said to me, this is a period of deep mourning. This is a period of deep mourning. This is a period of mourning that has never been experienced. God said we are in a period of deep mourning, a period of deep mourning. This is a period of mourning that has never been experienced. The world, God said, has never experienced the mourning that will take place. mourning, the mourning that will take place during this season. That deserves a pause. We have yet to even see the mourning, the degree of mourning that will take place in this season. God said this will be a period. This is March 31st now. This will be a period of deep groaning, a period of deep groaning. God said to me, the groans of the people will be deep. The groans of the people will be widespread. I didn't understand what a pandemic was and all of that at this point in time. The groans of the people will be widespread. It will be worldwide. This is a season of death. That's what God told me. This is a season of death. This is a season. There's a time and season for everything. This is a season of death. This is a season where death will take its toll. God said to me, the toll of death will be great. There will be a great toll as it relates to death. Death will visit the sick and the healthy. People say it's only affecting those with pre-existing conditions. I didn't understand that when I was doing this, when I was writing down or typing what God was saying to me. But he said the toll of death will be great. There will be a great toll as it relates to death. Death will visit the sick and the healthy, the poor and the wealthy, the powerful and the non-relevant. Both the poor and the wealthy will die alike. Now you see Herman Cain, the wealthy black millionaire. He could have been a billionaire. I'm not sure. Herman Cain, Donald Trump's buddy, he died of the virus. Isn't that something? The poor and the wealthy. You had other wealthy people who died. You have the powerful and the non-relevant. Those who are non-relevant, who you didn't think was anybody. It was just some overweight person in South Georgia who lived on a back street, red dirt clay road, who people didn't even know who she was or he was, and they just stayed to themselves and they were just found in a house dead. I mean, it's coming to the poor and the wealthy, the powerful and the non-relevant, the sick and the healthy. Now understand this here. When God was telling me this here, we were not seeing this in this manner. What I just read to you came from March 31st in the morning, but then March 31st that night, God began to speak to me again. And he said to me, this is a season where people are in need of slowing their still. People are in need of slowing their still. In other words, what we were calling being sat still or sitting still, we were still too busy. God says now we're in a period where even in our what we once called sitting still, even that needs to be slowed down to another notch or another couple of notches. However, people need to learn how to be still in this season. This is a season for people to learn how to be still. God said the earth is pausing in order that the people would begin to slow themselves. This is a period for the people of this world to slow their still. This is a time period for people to slow down their stillness. God said this is a period that will teach people to be still. God said this is a season that will cause the people of this generation to learn stillness. And that's what we've been fighting all of this time period. The learning, the lessons of stillness. We are so afraid to sit still. God said this season will teach people about the need to be still. It will teach them the importance of being still. The earth is constantly revolving. The earth is always in a state of revolving. The earth is slowly revolving. But in this season, God said, the earth itself is slowly evolving, not just revolving, but evolving. It's slowly changing. The universe is slowly changing, not just revolving, but evolving. The earth itself is evolving slowly. The earth is slowly evolving into a new state. God said right now is the divine period. I told you that this is the divine season, a period in time. Right now is the divine period in time where evolvement is occurring. This is the divine period in time for things to evolve. We don't like evolvement. We don't like to evolve. We don't like to change into something better, something different. We like the old. We like the consistency and the redundancy of the old. But God said we're in a period of evolvement. And he says evolvement requires both time and patience. And that's what people have failed to even accept in this period, this season of the pandemic. We don't want to take the time necessary to evolve. We don't want to be patient and let things play out like the authorities are telling us to. But rather, we're wanting to revolve. We're wanting to go back into the same revolving timeline and time chain and activities that we've always done, that we were accustomed to, when God is in the process right now of evolving us. God says this period involves both time and patience, and that's what we're fighting, both time and patience. I'm tired of sitting here. It's been long enough we've been wearing these masks. I'm tired of not being able to go and do what I want. I'm tired of opening up the church house. I'm tired. It's been long enough. It's been too long. What are you all doing? Why are you taking our rights away? Why are you shutting our mouths up? Why are you trying to control us? Why are you trying to have a dictatorship? Why are you trying to have a socialism? All this crazy mess. God said this is the time for people's processing to occur. God said this is the time for people's process of evolving to complete itself. We're cakes baked undone. We're cakes undone on one side or on three sides, three of the four sides. We're undone. God is saying, this is where I'm completing the process of your doneness, of your maturity. I'm bringing you into the wholeness of your maturity. I'm evolving you into the fullness of who you're to be, into the fullness of your destiny. Yet we're fighting. We're fighting it. He said, this is the time for people's process of evolving to complete itself. This is the season for the people's process of becoming to be recognized. We're all in the process of becoming. We're all in the process of God bringing us into greater. But we don't understand the process of God bringing us into greater, so we fight the process. We're fighting the process, and God is saying, stop fighting the process. Stop fighting the process of becoming. Leave the process of becoming up to me. You in the process of becoming. This pandemic season is part of that process. That process is ongoing in this pandemic season. God said up to this point, the pace at which people were living was too fast for them to process. We couldn't process our lives because everything was moving at such Mach speed. God is saying this season is designed to help the people to get through their process. He said this season was designed by him to move at such a rate that the people would be able to actually see through their process and then get through their process. God says our seasons before this season, this current season, we were moving at such a rate and we had so much going on that we weren't able to see our process. We were just moving. God says, I'm slowing this ride down now. I'm slowing this merry-go-round down now. Why? Because I want us to move at a rate of speed that we'll be able to take in what's actually being done and what's actually being worked in the universe within each of us individually and corporately. I'm wanting you to recognize the process of change, the process of evolvement that is occurring right now. And then most of all, I need you to get through your process. This is a season to help you to get through your process. God said this is the season for people to recognize their need for processing, to recognize their need to be processed. Some of us didn't even realize we needed as much work as we now need. Some of us now realize that we were more messed up than we ever realized that we were. Some of us are now coming to understand just how rebellious we are towards authority and towards submission and towards hearing God and understanding and knowing God. We're now, because of this process or because of this season and the processing that is occurring in this season, we're now coming to know what we didn't know about ourselves before. And we're coming to know what we didn't know about other people. Did we ever know that preachers were as rebellious to authority as they were? Did we ever know that preachers were upholding the enslavement mentality as they are? Did we ever know that preachers were so sold as they are? Did we ever believe or see where the church was so sold into the political world as they are? Or should I say, so in control of the political world as they are? Did we ever know that those within the church, that white people within the church felt the way that they actually feel towards black people and towards supporting Black Lives Matter? The thought, the notion, not the movement as much as the thought or the notion. I'm not going to go out there and stand up in those streets, but someone needs to. And God has an ordained people. But some of them, or most of them, are not going to come and do what I do. But God needs me to do this. We all need to understand our place and walk therein. Respect those who walk in the places that they walk, because God said the movements of this season are of me, and I will prove that just a little later as we continue on. But God said this is a season for people to recognize their need to be processed, their need to be processed, the need for processing. He said through this season, people are being required to slow down their activities in order that they might evolve, consciously evolve, in order that they may evolve into a proper manner, into a more proper being, into a more complete, a more mature being. God said this is the time for people's processing to occur. This is the time for people's process of evolving to complete itself. This is the season for people's processing or process of becoming to be recognized, not only be recognized by other people, but to be recognized by the person who is becoming. You need to recognize the becoming of you. This is a slow-paced period. This is a period of slow pace. Let us stop trying to fight against the pace of this period. God said this is a slow pace period. God said this will be the longest period that we've ever experienced as a people. But anyway, let's keep going. This is a period where everything will be done in a slower pace. Now, I'm going to show you what's messed up. God said this is a slow paced period. Yet at the same time, God also told me, and I don't know if I read it right here. I don't think I read it right here, but God said this is a period of slow pace. And he said, even though this is a period of slow pace, he said everything in this period will be moving at a fast pace. Everything within this period is a slow pace. Well, this is a slow paced period overall, but even within this period, everything will be moving at a fast pace. In other words, events and situations will be happening left and right, up and down, front and back, side to side. Events will be coming out of every direction. And yet at the same time, God is saying, and this is a slow paced period. It's like a hurricane. It has 180 mile per hour winds, yet at the same time, it's only moving at 3 miles per hour. Whoa. Do you know the devastation that works moving at that slow pace, yet blowing at that hard of a pace, that fast of a pace? That's like an oxymoron. But anyway, everything will take place at a much slower pace. Nothing will be rushed. Nothing will be able to be rushed. God said everything during this season will take time and process. Nothing will be microwaved in this season. Nothing will be microwavable in this season. We've left the microwavable periods of our lives. God is saying nothing will be microwaved here. We might as well unplug the microwave. It's not going to happen like that. We're trying to speed up the pandemic. We're trying to speed up the economy. We're trying to speed up the period of the virus. You cannot do that. Everything during this season will lose its normal pace. Nothing in this season will occur at its normal pace. Nothing in this season will occur at its normal pace. Everything during this season will lose its normal pace. You see stuff moving at an abnormal pace when it comes to the postal service, when it comes to them restocking shelves, when it comes to people going back onto their jobs, and when it comes to stuff opening back up, when it comes to receiving the results back from the virus test, or when it comes to receiving an appointment, getting an appointment to see your dentist, or when you seek most type medical care or whatever. You see everything moving at a slower pace. Slower pace. You go into a restaurant drive-through, everything is backed up. Everything is moving at a much slower pace. We're learning patience. We're learning to be patient. Everything during this season will take time and process. It will be slow. God said it is designed in this season to be slow. Everything is designed in this season to slow down. God said this is a period of slow pace processing. Stop trying to go through the process of this season at a pace faster than what God intended it to. This is a period for people to slowly and consciously process their ongoing state of becoming. Slowly and consciously process your ongoing state of becoming. This is a period for people to slowly recognize their becomingness. There is a becomingness about each of us individually and corporately. And in that becomingness, we need to recognize so that we can be consciously aware and consciously participating in our becomingness. Our becomingness is about us evolving into all that we were destined to be, into where we were destined to be. This is a period for people to recognize everything that is becoming, to recognize everything that is coming to be. God said this is a season of reflection. All of this is March 31st. This is a season of reflection. This is a season for people to reflect, to reflect, to reflect. Throughout this season, people are being given a period of time and the necessary period in time to reflect. God said everyone should be reflecting in this season because this is a season of reflection. This is a period for people to reconnect, with themselves. God said this is a period for people to reconnect, for you to reconnect with yourself. This is a period for people to reconnect themselves with their own consciousness. And I'll get into this one a little later. This is a period for people to connect with their own conscious state of existence. God says this is a period where his voice is to be heard in this season. God said his voice is the only thing that will keep the people's sanity. His voice. If you're going to maintain your sanity in this season, this is a season where you need to hear God's voice. God's voice is to be heard and adhered to by each individual during this season. This is a season of personal hearing. Your sanity during this season is dependent upon your ability to hear me, meaning God. God says, unless people can hear me, they will lose heart during this season. This is a season where people will lose heart. God said this season will be a season that is beyond measure. A season that is beyond measure. He said this season will be stressing to the senses. The human senses will be stressed beyond measure during this season. Many aren't going to be able to deal with what we're going to see and hear and touch and taste and smell throughout this season. God said the human senses will be stretched beyond. Oh boy. The human senses will be stretched beyond measure. Beyond measure. God says this season demands the hearing of my people. My people need to hear my voice in order to make it through this season. He says, my voice will direct you in this season if you hear me. He says, my voice will lead you in this season if you let me. He says, my voice will keep you if you let my voice keep you in this season. Now, the question is, will we let God's voice keep us in this season? But then God went on to say in April 6th, he said, on April 6th, he said to me, there is a correcting that is occurring in this season. He said, this is a period of correction. This is a season of correction. He said, this is a season where things are being corrected. Now I understand why June occurred and why the George Floyd incident occurred and the Breonna Taylor incident occurred when it occurred and when all these other incidents occurred. Now I understand what was going on in Charlottesville, way in Virginia, way back a couple of years ago. Now I understand why the president had to become the president. Now I understand why all of these things were taking place, because everything was being divinely set up by God to be corrected in the season that we're in. Things are being corrected in this season. Things are in a period of correcting. This is a period where correction is occurring. This is what he told me on April 6th. He said this period is to address the season that we're in is to address the incorrectness. I didn't know all of that. I didn't understand that. The season that we're in is to address the incorrectness. This season is to address the incorrectness of our day. God said a lot has been incorrect. A lot has been done incorrectly. A lot is being done incorrectly. A lot continues to be incorrect. He says this will be a time of great losses. Because in the correcting, there's some losses that will occur when you correct stuff. See, if I correct what you owe me, you're going to lose some of what you possess in order to correct what I don't have that I'm due. This will be a time of great losses, but this will also be a time of great gains. A time of great losses, but also a time of great gains. This is a time of flip-flop. God said we're in a period of flip-flop, a period of flip-flop. My wife reminded me of this flip-flop. This is a time of flip-flop. This is a time where things will flip and flop, where things that were once the tail will now become the head, where things that were once the head will now become the tail, where things that were once beneath will now become on top or above. This is the time where the wealthy will lose their wealth. Those positioned will lose their positions. Those out of position or in position but not in position, they will be placed into their positions. Those who have been living in poverty will now live at a better state in life. God said this is a time of flip-flop. Who was once ruling will now be ruled. Who was once a nobody will now be in position or in the position of both power and authority. God said this is a time where things will flip-flop. He said truly the last will be first and the first will be last. He said the tail will become the head and the head will become the tail. That was what he told me April 6, 2020. Wow. I hope that you're getting something out of this. I hope that you're coming to see and understand the importance of this season, and not only the importance of this season, but the need for you to submit to this season and not fight this season like so many millions of people are doing right now. Don't fight this season. This season is not against you. This season is not against your destiny. This season is due to your destiny. This season is to get you through your destiny. This season was set up and designed because of your destiny, by your destiny, due to the purposes and plans of God for your life. This is not against you, it's for you. This is just a season within our individual and corporate destiny. This is part of our destiny. We don't have to fight it. It's bringing us into a better place. It's bringing us into a more secure place in God, within ourselves, in our walk, in our knowledge, our understanding, our wisdom. We'll be sharper in our discernment because of it. We'll be able to perceive better. We will have keen insight into the deeper things of God. We will be able to understand and flow in life better than what we ever have. We will see justice prevail. We will see righteousness come forth. We will see truth prevail. We will see good prevail over that which we once saw as evil. Give this season the time that it needs. And in doing so, I believe that we will all move into a greater sense of peace within ourselves and with God, and most of all, with each other. Let's do that. Let's reflect. Let's meditate on that. And let's continue on with this subject, the divine season of the pandemic, with the subtopic of the type of season this is. Thank you.